All right. All right. Welcome. Welcome. You have gotten to this point, and congratulations. You have gotten the as is contract taken care of. You have now, you are ready to start putting in the contingencies to protect your buyer. One of the main contingencies, especially for conventional types of offers, or the the addendums that you put in. The main addendum for, again, a conventional loan is the appraisal contingency. What the appraisal contingency does, as we're going to see a little bit later on, is that it's going to protect your buyer should the property appraise for less than the value that we've written the offer on. Now, for conventional loans, most conventional loans, you come in, you're putting a lot of money on the table. Sometimes you're putting 5%, 10%, up to 25% of the value. And what that means is that the offer that you're writing with and the loan amount that you get, those numbers may have up to a $25,000 gap. Let me give you an example. You have a home that you are writing an offer on, just to make the math easy, $100,000, and you intend to put 25 thousand, or 25% of the value of that home in escrow, because you're going to get a loan amount of only $75,000. So if you don't have an appraisal contingency in that says that the house has to appraise for $100,000, then the loan amount is only 75,000. And so let's say, for instance, the home is appraised and the appraiser come in at $80,000. Well, because you only writing the loan for $75,000, then that would be cool. The buyer would say, I'm sorry, the seller would say, hey, listen, you have given me a pre-approval for a conventional loan, and the house appraised for the loan amount, which is 75,000. Is this example, the loan amount is only 75,000, and we're good. We're good. There's no appraisal contingency. We're good. You are obligated to continue this loan, or you lose your escrow deposit. On the buyer side, the buyer said, no, 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 no. I want the home to appraise for the value that I'm offering you. If I'm offering you $100,000 for this home, I want the home to appraise for $100,000. Isn't that fair, Mr. Seller? Isn't that fair? Seller said, no, 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 no. 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 One more time. No. You did not give me appraisal contingency. I did not sign an appraisal contingency. And guess what? I'm going to hold you to this deal that we have agreed to. So the appraisal contingency for a conventional loan is pretty important, guys, because it protects your buyer. So let's get right to it. Now, this is the loop that we have already established with the loan that is, let me get this over here, with the home that we have already written an as is contract on. Okay. So this home, which is 6932 Old Benton Drive, this as is contract, we're going to cover, because this is the contract that we have written. I've already, as I mentioned before, we've already talked to the buyer. We've gotten a price on the home that we're going to offer. We have let me expand it here a little bit for you guys. So we have a home In this particular case, we have the parties already involved. We have the buyers, we have the sellers. We've covered this again. If you don't have this information, or if you haven't seen the video of how to fill out the as is contract for residential sale and purchase, go to that video, how to complete this. I go step by step, every detail. I even give you key points on clauses you should be aware of. So we cover this in depth. So I'm not going to do that again in this video. Well, all I'm going to talk about is adding the appraisal contingency on there, but I do want to highlight a couple things in the contract that makes it a conventional loan as opposed to FHA or VA loan. Okay. Now, we said that we're going to purchase the price, or our offer for to purchase the property is $419,900. We're going to put $5,000 down. We're going to finance. Let's say we're going to finance 80%. So ultimately, I'm going to put 80% of I'm going to get a loan for 80% of the value, and the balance of that 80% is what I'm going to bring to the table. Okay. So here's the importance of that, guys. So just doing some quick math, if I'm paying for a home and I want to purchase a home at 419,900, so 419,900, and I'm bringing 20% to the table, because 20% plus 80% of what I'm financing makes 100%. So I'm bringing 20% to the table. So times 0.2. So I'm bringing to the table somewhere around $80,000. To be exact, let's go with 419,900 times 0.2 equals, one second, 419,900 times 0.2 is $83,980. So I'm bringing almost $84,000. I'm giving him $5,000 for escrow. So I'm going to deduct that $5,000 that I gave him. So at time of close, I'm bringing him $79,000, at least $79,980, plus whatever my closing cost is, prepays, and so on. So I'm bringing him, $90,000 potentially to close this deal. That's money, guys. Now, at least to me, $90,000, I don't want to lose that. If you're a multimillionaire, maybe, but then you'll probably be buying a different type of house. So you want to, as a buyer's agent, you want to protect your buyer. That is key. If this house does not appraise for $419,900, you want to give your buyers options to either continue the deal or to get out of the deal. And the way to do that is, again, the appraisal contingency. So let's continue on. We said that we're going to try to close on on or before 11/22, so November the 22nd, a couple of days for Thanksgiving. This is not an assignable contract, so my buyer intends to close on the property and live in. This property, it says right here, is a conventional loan. Boom, conventional loan. This is what determines a couple of things. One is that how much how much you're gonna to finance, because most conventional loans are, you're financing a lot more than the FHA or VA loan. A couple more further down, we are saying that the inspection period is 8 days. So we have 8 days to do our due diligence. Again, the power of this as is contract is that those 8 days, should I decide to not continue with the purchase, then I would get a refund of my $5,000 that we put in escrow. Okay. So that's one protection for my buyer. 8 days. In this particular case, we have 8 days. If left blank, it will be 15 days. So typically your inspection period is going to be somewhere for between 8 and 15 days for residential home purchases. All right. Continuing on, we're going to go down to here, which is line 589. And here's where we put in our addendum information. And we're going to say that we want to provide addendum F as part of the contract, which is the appraisal contingency right here. Okay. Now, and typically for a conventional type of deal, you're not asking the buyer for the seller for buyer compensation. So we typically it's a situation where you're not asking for the seller to contribute. In this particular case, 5,000 toward the closing cost. That may or may not be there. We're going to leave it in there. Appraisal contingencies. This is the big thing. Okay, let's save the form. We're going to go out of our loop. And here's where we add the appraisal contingency to the contract. We're going to go in and we're going to say add document here. We're going to go to templates. We're using dot loop, and we covered dot loop in previous videos. So again, if you are not familiar with us filling out the as is or dot loop, go to my video where we discuss that, how to fill out the as is contract. Okay. So I'm just going to type in appraisal contingency. And here is the one that we're going to select, which is the one for the far bar. This is crispy. This is far bar. Okay. Copy, and it goes to our loop. So now it's just, you don't have to move it, guys. It's just one of the things I do. I like to have my as is contract first and all my addendums under the contract itself. That's just a personal thing. It doesn't have to be moved. Click on it. Again, we talked about the importance of having this form filled out where we auto-populate the forms that we are going to complete. So we put the information for the buyer, the seller, the address, and the legal description. We do that one time, and then that way we can autofill the document. So let's do just that. That takes us here. This is the appraisal contingency for, as it sees right here, for the contract. And here you have let me close this here. And here you have a lot of the information auto-populated. You have right here the seller's name. We have our buyer's name here. We have our address already auto-populated, and we have our legal description already auto-populated. And here we have the initials for our buyer. And here we have the initials for our seller. Now, as mentioned before, the buyer and the seller are represented by two different people. The buyer is represented by David Carmena, which is the buyer's agent, and in this particular deal, and the seller has a listing agent. So we will not be sending this property, this appraisal contingency addendum to the sellers. We will send it to the seller representative, the listing agent, and the listing agent will provide the initials for her client, his or her client, and have the sellers sign this. Okay, pretty easy, guys. It's really not much after this. It says that the contract is contingent upon the buyers obtaining a buyer at buyer's expense a written appraisal from a licensed appraiser on or before, if left blank, and we typically leave this blank, if left blank, then at least 10 days prior to the closing date. So we got to get an appraisal at least 10 days before the closing date, stating that the appraised value of the property is at least, if left blank, purchase price. So we just leave both of these blank, guys. This says that 10 days prior to the closing, we have to have the appraisal. That's one. And two, it has the appraised for the purchase price. If the appraisal states that the appraised value of the property is less than the above value, in this particular case, the purchase price, buyer shall deliver uh, a copy of such appraisal to the seller within 3 days after the above date and deliver written notice to the seller either by here are the buyer's option: A, terminating the contract in which the contract I'm sorry, in which event the deposit shall be refunded to the buyer. Okay, so we terminate the contract. Within this contingency, we get our escrow deposit back. Okay, thereby releasing buyer and seller from all further obligations under this contract. So we can terminate the contract. That's what A says. Or B, waiving and removing this contingency and continuing with this contract without regards to the appraised value uh, of the property. Okay, so we got a couple of choices here. We can terminate the contract, or we can waive and continue on. Another option is that, and most common option is that we renegotiate the contract. We actually do an addendum saying that buyer, and typical addendum for this is that the buyer and seller agree to um, reduce the purchase price to the appraised value. And we just clean that up with another addendum. And that's typically how you can clean up a home valuation that comes in under the purchase price. If the appraiser goes out and says for this particular deal that the home appraised for 400,000 instead of 419,000, right? Then the buyer, if you're doing on your job and you're doing your due diligence, the buyer would say, "Hey, listen, seller, look, my buyer still wants to be in the deal, and here's what we can do. Why don't we reduce the purchase price to the appraised value?" Sometime there may be some back and forth, and the buyer says, "Oh, well, instead of purchase price, let's go instead of going 400,000, let's go to four. I'll meet you halfway. Let's go with something 407 or 49 410 or something like that instead of 420. Let's do 410." The buyer still has that option, guys. They don't have to accept that because this is contingency, and this is the beauty of this contingency. It says that if it doesn't reach the purchase price, if the home does not appraise at the purchase price, I can walk. I can walk. Now, in most cases, if the buyer likes the house, they may be willing to negotiate off the purchase price. Okay. All right. The home appraised for 400,000. I'm only going to write a loan for 300 some change, and I was offering you 420. You came back at 410. I'm still $10,000 less than what I was going to offer you before. That's fair. That's a win-win. But you still reserve the right to walk. You've done your job. Congratulations. You have protected your buyer, one, and you have basically saved that seller $10,000. That's what you're supposed to do. Negotiate on behalf of your client. If you're a buyer's agent, you want to get the best deal for your buyer. If you're a listing agent, you want to give the best deal for your seller. In all cases, you want to try to be a win-win. So a couple things, guys. One, this is a contract that is most commonly used as to protect the buyers when you have a as-is contract that is a conventional loan. You're getting a conventional loan. Second thing is that you want to try to craft a win-win type of situation, a win-win scenario. Something that the seller can live with, something that the buyer can live with. Third thing is that if the home appraised, there's nothing you can do. If the home would have came in at 419,000, 420,000, it would not have triggered this addendum. This addendum is only triggered when the home does not appraise, not if the home appraised. So if the home came in at 420, you can't come in go in there and say, "Hey, Mr. Seller, guess what? I want to try to negotiate." You can try it, but uh, they're gonna say, "Well, show me the appraisal. Show me the appraisal." If you can't show them the appraisal saying that the property appraised at something less, ain't gonna work. Ain't gonna work. The last point I want to make is that if you're still in inspection contingency, which is unlikely because the inspection contingency is still 8 days, and most appraisals on a property you're not going to have back in 8 days. You might order it within that 8 day period, but it usually take a 10-day turnaround. So in most cases, you're not going to have that back within 8 days, and so that get out of jail free period, that inspection period has expired, and you now only have the appraisal contingency. Okay. So that is again the beauty of the appraisal contingency. And I want to say that uh, this contract that we just covered is a contract that I as a buyer, I'm sorry, as a broker, a 15-year broker, I've been in the game 15 years, brokerage and all of that. I am not a lawyer, and I want to play this disclaimer for you. Hi, I'm David Carmena, the broker here with Carmena and Associates Realty Group. I have 15 years experience in the real estate industry, and today we're going to be covering contracts that are commonly used in the real estate industry. I want to say that I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. If you have any questions about this contract, please consult your lawyer. All right. All right. So that's the disclaimer. Don't try to sue a brother. And I want you to protect your buyer, but more importantly, stay grinding.